Hi,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Sorry it took me a few minutes. I couldn't find the link in my emails because my emails are a mess, but here we are.
I haven't seen you for 10 years, isn't it?
Has it been? No, it's not been that long, has it?
No.
I don't actually, it's not. When did I leave Dundee? Like 2012, I think. 2000,
Yeah, I think so.
2012, 2013. So it's not that far off.
Because I think I saw you last time in your graduation with your parents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing how time flies.
time flies. Oh my God.
Been a
And
long
more or
time.
less, you traveled around the world in the
A
meantime.
little bit, a little bit. How are you? You still plugging away in Dundee?
Yeah, yeah. Dundee is my home.
Yeah, that's great.
I was like listening to some songs, like recent song by, like Paul Simon.
Uh-huh.
So he wrote the song, but the song was sung by his friend, former, like the same band, Dino. So
Okay.
the first line is New York is my home.
Yeah, but it's Dundee for you. I don't think I can quite call New York my home just yet. I think you have to be here for like at least 10 years to be able to say you're a
Wow.
New.
Mm, mm.
They don't let you into the club easily.
It's huge, isn't it? New York is huge.
Yeah, but because I was in London right before coming here, and
Mm,
it feels more, I mean, Manhattan feels more like compressed than London. Like London's so much more sprawling,
mm,
whereas, Manhattan, obviously not taking into account like the five boroughs, feels like
mm,
it's easy, it's more condensed, more
mm.
condensed. So, but I like it here. It's not for everybody, but I like it.
No, I mean you are in the HQ basically.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
basically.
how far? I mean, is it like walking distance from your place to the office?
Yeah, so the UN like HQ is about 20, depends how fast you walk, 25, 30 minutes walk away from my apartment. And then the UK mission is like one block over from HQ because, we're in normal times, obviously not the past year because of COVID, but in normal times, we are running back and forth between the mission and the UN constantly. So, I mean, in some ways, it would be nice if it was further away because I'd get my steps in easier for the day. But it's good that it's close by. It makes a big difference.
Good. What's the painting behind you?
So I got it in Sri Lanka, and it's like an abstract painting of three monks in the rain. But a lot of people, given that I work on Africa, I think it's like Maasai tribe.
Mm.
But yeah, I got it in Sri Lanka. So it's provided to be a good backdrop for the past year and a half.
So this is really nice, really, really nice. It
Like
seems
$20.
$20 in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Did you buy it from Sri Lanka with $20?
And now you're testing my memory.
But did
And
you
I was
see
like
like,
an artist.
did you see there are like, I think there's some kind of reflections of
Yeah,
them on the water, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I had it for the longest time, like because I bought it when I was on holiday in Sri Lanka from a street artist, and obviously I had to come off the frame, so I had it rolled up for the longest time, and it wasn't until I finally like when I moved to New York and I went and like I kept on like going into these framing stores and asking like, oh, how much would it be? And they were like, oh, $200, and I'm like, I paid $20 for this. I'm not paying $200. So I ended up stretching it myself, so I'm quite proud of it that
Very
I
good.
contributed to the artistic process.
Very good. Well done. Do you do yourself bit of painting, art, anything?
Not my forte, Abdullah. Not my forte. It's not. Yeah, definitely not in my skill set. No.
What's your hobby normally, in like New York? I know you have got cats.
I do. I have my cats, yeah, one of which is sitting right next to me now. And she, in the last call I was in, kept on like putting her claw into my knee. So if you see me grimace, that's why. But yeah, oh gosh, I never know how to. So during the pandemic, I bought a Peloton bike. So one of those like stationary
Yeah.
at home bikes, and that's become a bit of an obsession. And yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, I feel like living in New York in itself can be a hobby sometimes because there's just so much to do and to see, and like just traveling around, but just like going to loads of different places that like look like they're from movies and TV and that sort of stuff has been really cool. So but obviously, yeah, the past year has not enabled me to do as much of that as I would have liked to.
But I think I saw like some of your Facebook post. I mean, you traveled a bit.
Yeah, so I just got back from Mexico a few weeks ago, so that was very nice. Just went to Cancun and sat by the pool for a week. Went out to Chichen Itza, which is like the Mayan ruins, one of the 7 wonders of the world. So that was really cool. I got to go to so I think, do you remember, my sister lives in Dubai. So I went out there for Christmas, which was great. And I went to Aruba in October. And then pre-pandemic, I did Costa Rica, Cuba. Where else did I go? I think that was it in terms of sort of Southern America. But yeah, I've tended to do more travel in Southern America than in the US itself. And obviously, yeah, I thought I would have had more time, but I mean, it sounds like I've just been like gallivanting around whilst the pandemic's been happening. I'm just sure it was all very safe and well calculated. But the rules in terms of travel haven't been just as strict here as as they have been in the UK. And fortunately, being a diplomat, I was able to come back to the UK in April. But otherwise, there's still the travel ban in place, so people can't really come between the UK and US easily. But we're lucky that we can.
Like, we'll just try to go through some of the chit chat, the usual ones. I'll try to cover like your time at Dundee, but before that, I mean, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Paisley, which is just outside of Glasgow, and grew up in a town called Barhead, or some people call it Borhead, if you're being pretty Scottish about it. So it's just outside of Glasgow as well. And my parents lived in the same house actually until last year. So
Wow.
For 29 years they lived in the same house. But then they just moved recently. So last time I was home, it was weird because I was going to a different house that wasn't my childhood home. But yeah, a Glasgow girl, born and raised.
So your parents have been living there more or less up to like today, basically, still.
Yeah, so I mean they moved house, but they moved a mile away from the old house, so it's not like they've gone far. My mum, she grew up in Barhead, but my dad's from Birmingham.
Okay.
So so I've got that English connection as well, and that's actually where I went to do my master's, because of that connection.
Yeah, saw it. Yeah. So like, how much like Glasgow like means to you? I mean, how big it is? So like, whenever you feel like you're coming from New York to Glasgow, I mean, tell me about the emotion. It's like kind of driving home for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, my mother would like if I came home more for Christmas. So no, I think it's I mean, it's been now 12 years since I lived in Glasgow. Obviously going to Dundee and then not really living there afterwards. It'll always be home, and I think I'm not the most patriotic Scot, but I do think being away makes you more patriotic. So, when you hear the bagpipes, it definitely tugs on the heartstrings. And whenever I come home, there's like a long list of things I want to eat. So, you've got to there's like a chippy in my hometown that I've got to go to, like, depending on time of the day, maybe the first thing I'll do when I get off the plane. There's also a local cafe that I worked in when I was a teenager.
Oh.
Has like amazing ice cream. That's like won awards for their ice cream, and it's literally just like vanilla and raspberry sauce, but it's amazing. So I do get sentimental about those things, and obviously being away from family. It's always nice to go back and see them, but my family's really spread out. A sister in Dubai, a sister in Miami. My parents are in Scotland, and then my dad's family's all in England. And then friends friends are all over the place. So I think going back to the UK more than going back to Glasgow is special for me. I lived in London for 4 years, I think it was. So I've got a lot of friends that are there. So there's always that push and that push and pull. When I come back to the UK, it's like, well, where are you going? Are you going to Scotland? Are you going to come to London? Are you going to come to Birmingham? So yeah, if I could, make cut myself into a couple of pieces and, send the different places at different times, that would be helpful.
Like my memory with you is like, you are one of those students, very relaxed, like take things very easy, like not like, I mean, I think you are okay with like B2, or also you are okay with like A1. So, I mean, not much emotion going on there, but I saw like some students, if you give them B2, they'll just go mad.
I don't think I ever did dispute any grades, but for the record, I just would like to put out there that I did graduate with distinction, Abdullah. So, I got those A1s in the end.
I know that. No, I'm saying that, just like one of those students, just like cool, just like.
maybe it's behind the scenes, right?
I mean, it kind of reminds me like some of the it's like a stream versus river. River is like more deep, it flows. It doesn't make much noise, but the stream makes lots of noise.
So I'll take that. I'll take the depth.
You have got the depth. Just like something just natural. I mean, just natural.
No, I'll take that compliment. Thanks.
Yeah. So that's why I think the people like you will be like great diplomat. Just nice. Just like I think it's more kinder. Like things there.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is about personality, but I think I haven't, like, nobody sticks out in my mind like that I've come across that's like not nice. Like, obviously you have people that you get on with better than others, but I think professionalism is what comes out top. For any diplomat, and you have to be able to work. You have to be able to work with people that you don't agree with and that are very, very different from you. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, is that you do get to engage with people from so many different backgrounds. And that's kind of like, that's what was so nice about Dundee as well, that even though it's I think on the scale of things, it's not a huge university, right? It's not necessarily it's not your Oxford, it's not your Cambridge, it's not a university in London, but it was still like, it still had diversity to it, and still got to engage with people from completely different backgrounds and from different countries and different perspectives. And I think that's what gave me a bit of a taste for wanting to get into this world that I now work in and live in.
Just like one more thing, like, I mean, it's like one of my obligatory questions is like, like looking back, I mean, how do you think your parents shaped your understanding about, things, life?
Yeah, I think, my parents have always been very open-minded and very interested, like in the world. Like to travel, which I think definitely got embedded in me. Like my dad would rather, save up and go on a great holiday than go out for dinner and, to the cinema every week. Like he would rather spend his money on travel than like, doing things on a sort of regular basis. And I think I definitely well, I try and do both to the detriment of my credit card bill. But anyways, I think, yeah, like always like a curiosity about the world. Like when it comes to food, my dad's, always try something once, right? One of his like pet peeves, if someone says, oh no, I don't like that. And then they say, well, have you tried it? And they say no. So it was always, try it once, and if you don't like it, that's okay. So I think that gave me like a curiosity as well. And just, yeah, like an interest in the world. Like always had on, the news. The 10 o'clock news was like a regular thing growing up in my house. Newspapers. I will admit they were on the Daily Mail when I was younger, but they did mature and end up on the Times, so they course corrected. But yeah, these things were around, and then obviously when I was only about 12 years old when my sister moved to Dubai, because there's a bit of an age gap between us. So going and experiencing that lifestyle and getting to travel to there, and then her taking me, to places like Thailand and the Maldives and everything, it just kind of really sparked that curiosity in the world. Like I love experiencing new places, and my sister always laughs at me because it has gotten us into some unique situations, shall we say, but I want to like experience like an authentic authentic experience when I'm somewhere, and I think that does all stem back from that sort of curiosity that my parents instilled in me when I was growing up.
Good. Also, like another good question is like, I mean, when I was very young, I mean, were you thinking about your future? Like what would you become,
Yeah, and it was not a diplomat.
No, it's not. Normally it's like astronaut or like,
so
dolphin instructor.
There was a brief period I did swim with dolphins when I was 16, and there was a brief period where dolphin instructor crossed my mind. But for me, like and my parents will tell you, like when I was like 5-6 years old, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and they would get doctors, the little toy doctors kits that kids dress up, and they would tell me that it was a vet kit, because obviously you couldn't buy a vet kit, so I would get given these doctors, nurses, like playthings, and it was for being a vet, and that stayed with me. Like I did my hires in high school with the thought that I would go on to be a vet. But the big problem with my plan is that I'm absolutely terrible at science. Like my mind just doesn't work that way. Yeah, I think people that do humanities, like we just don't think that way. Like I like with math and with science, the fact that it's like this is the answer and this is the why. No, this is the answer because this is the answer. My brain doesn't work like that. Like I much prefer, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could, so yeah, my dreams of being a vet got scuppered by my lack of scientific ability. Yeah, and like vet to diplomat is obviously, that makes a lot of sense, right? That transitions.
Yeah, like I mean, to be honest, like if it is, I mean, if this choice was given to me, I would go for diplomat any day.
I mean, now, yeah, 100%.
But I mean, to be honest, like, like one of the joke about, being a vet, their main job?
I don't know if I want to guess this. I think you should tell me.
Their main job is to just put down cats.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't like that. Yeah, no, I did my work experience at a vet. That's how, I was committed to this. And yeah, I saw a dog get put to sleep And I also saw some like minor surgical procedures get done. But yeah, I think, you know, it just was not meant to. I think the diplomatic life is slightly more glamorous than the life of it.
Yeah, I would choose a glamorous life, you know. Definitely.
Yeah. Although I will say, Abdullah, that because you know, I have 2 cats, and I think vets in New York, they are raking it in. Like, it is astronomical. Like,
Oh my God.
the annual checkup at the vet, I'm coming out there and I'm like $1,000 poorer. So the diplomatic life might be slightly more glamorous, but I think the veterinarian life, especially in New York, might pay a little bit more. So maybe I'll try and revive that childhood dream.
I think they must be very angry because then they have to kill, you know, too many cats. So I mean,
Yeah, probably not a perk of the job. No.
no, because I'm like one of the comedians in America. I mean, I'm aware of. He was a vet in his previous, you know, profession. He left it because he's just tired of killing cats.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a nice part of the job. At least I
No,
haven't had to do that in my diplomatic career. So
no, no.
no.
But again, like to be fair to vet, I mean, we need them, you know.
Yeah,
They,
we do.
they're the
Definitely.
doctors, you know.
Yeah.
They take care of our pets. I mean, so
Yeah, exactly.
So then you suddenly came to Dundee.
Yeah.
When was that moment, you know, you decided to come to Dundee?
So I did what I think most people in their final year at high school do. You know, you go and you do the campus tours. And I had Dundee, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and Glasgow, I think. Yeah, and maybe Strathclyde on my list. And Dundee was the first place that I came. And I came with my friend who ended up also coming to Dundee to study forensic science or something to do with dead bodies. I can't quite remember, but I remember standing outside of the morgue when she went into the morgue as part of her tour. But anyways, that's a sidestep. But yeah, I came and I think I fell in love with it instantly. Which I don't know if many people say about Dundee. But in terms of the university, like, I loved that it was this campus vibe. So obviously coming from Glasgow, I had seen Glasgow University, and like Strathclyde University, you could be standing next to a university building in Glasgow and not know it. And I loved that Dundee had that kind of campus community vibe to it, and that it was, you know, as much as I'm definitely much like a big city kind of person, like, I liked that it was kind of cozy and small. And yeah, and at the time, so I actually came to study geography to start with, and it was one of the best ranked universities for geography at the time. So that was definitely a big factor as well. In deciding. And after that, I didn't go on any other campus tours. I was like, Dundee is where I'm going. That was it. And thankfully, I think it was the first that got back to me with my acceptance. So that was it. Like, everybody else just got pushed to the side, and Dundee was it. So it really wasn't much of a deliberation for me. Yeah.
But also you like made some amazing friends as well.
Yeah, people that I'm still friends with to this day.
I think it's like Catherine is your mate.
Yeah. She is living and working in Glasgow, and she works for Glasgow Council. And just got married.
She got married recently, isn't it? Oh my God.
I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be there, but because of COVID, it ended up being like a really tiny wedding. So sadly didn't get to go to that. But yeah, I saw her when I was back home. And then Ailey Clonacar, she is a lawyer now.
Yeah, I saw it. No, I think she's like barrister. Whoa.
She's getting there. She's definitely getting there. Yeah. So I think she's just about to finish like being her junior kind of practice years and kind of go into the big bad world of law. But yeah, no, so many great people, and so many interesting people that have gone on to do great things.
Great. Any like good memories while you was in Dundee, like funny memory or like good memory or like, something, made you like more thoughtful about things?
Yeah, I mean, so many good memories, and I think it's cheesy, but when you go to the university and you have that experience where you're living away from home for the first time, like it's where you come into your own, right? It's where you kind of develop into the human being that you're going to be. And yeah, God, so many good memories. I think the thing that really though, the time period that sticks with me most, and I think has been most instrumental in coming to where I am now, is sort of my third and my fourth year. I mean, I think most people enjoy first and second year, and then in third and fourth year, like, right, okay, now this is when it matters. But that's also when I switched my degree up, because it was geography and transatlantic studies, and then I was not enjoying the geography side of it because I was very interested in the human side of the geography, but the physical side, rocks and soil, like, no, was not for me. So that's when I made the switch to do international relations and started taking like your classes and Norrie McQueen's classes, and then EDSIA in my final year as well. And like, I learned a huge amount in those 2 years, and that's also when I got involved with Model United Nations, and ended up being the president of the society in my final year. And also things like I established the UNICEF on campus society, and got involved. Catherine and I did the Human Rights Film Club with EDSIA. So I think in my sort of second 2 years is really when I got kind of like more stuck in on the sort of slightly more academic side than the going to the union side. I think that was really formative in kind of setting my sights on this diplomatic career path. So I think, one of my regrets actually is that I didn't get involved with Model UN in particular sooner, that I didn't do it in my first year, because I really, really enjoyed it. And not just like, yes, okay, the going and the debating the topics and all that sort of stuff was really, really interesting. But going back to your point about people, I mean, going to these conferences, when I was at Dundee, we did Oxford's Model UN conference. We went to Scotland, which was hosted in Edinburgh. And you have people coming from all over the world to these conferences and getting to meet people from all over the place, some of whom have actually become best friends to this day, and people that I'm still in contact with. And one of the things about Model UN is that, if you do it, you'll always have a sofa to sleep on, no matter, where you are in the world. So yeah, I wish I had done that earlier and not waited until my third year to get involved with it. But yeah, just so many good memories. And I often think back to being at uni when we did 10 hours of class a week or something, and obviously, like, especially in third and fourth year, studied a lot in between. But like, God, I'll never have that time in my life again where I have so little to do. So, that's a nice time to look back on, to think, God, it really, like, it seemed hard at the time, but it was really quite an easy life.
Because I mean, do you think those things, like, this like Model UN, or like, doing like EDGES, all those things on like human rights and stuff, suddenly you guys became just like adult.
Yeah.
And then thinking about the world, that, oh my God, we got to do something about this.
I mean, there was just so many fascinating things to discuss and to look at, and like I think your class on peacekeeping, that really sparked, alongside Nori's class on the UN more generally, that really sparked my interest in the UN. Not so fond memory trying to remember the acronyms of all the peacekeeping missions for the exam for your class. I still like think about that. The dates that they were deployed and everything, that was not fun. But no, I think like it really did like plant a seed. And then you had, you know, Edzia's classes that were a bit more like a bit more on the theory side of things. Yeah, and there was that mandatory class that we had to take that was about all the, like, it kind of had a philosophy slant to it. I can't remember who taught that, which I will admit we didn't enjoy. But it, you know, we discussed like the veil of ignorance and all that sort of stuff. But that was also like, it was all stretching, right? And it all got you to think more. I also took a class on global drug policy. I don't know if they still do that. That was fascinating.
So that's like Martin Elvin.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was so interesting. And then, but then that also came back to the UN, right? Because you had like the UN Organization for Drugs and Crime, and that, you know, got to think about all of that. So yeah, it definitely planted the seed for kind of focusing on that kind of that area of work. I can never put like a finger on it, like when did I know that I wanted to become a diplomat? I can't, like I couldn't tell you, but I definitely know that those you know, Dundee would definitely a big part of forming the interest.
Yeah. And then you move to your postgrad thing, so you are more focused now.
Yeah.
That now you have a plan.
Yeah, and that was by that point it was very intentional. Like diplomacy was what I wanted to do. So I went to the University of Birmingham and did a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy, like really got into studying like the different like theories of diplomacy, the history of diplomacy, like modern day diplomacy and that sort of stuff, but also did classes on like globalization and global governance, and Asia Pacific security as well. And they were really, you know, that was really good because in undergrad, you know, we would do like sort of a module per sort of like semester, whereas with these classes they ran the entire length of the degree for like a year. We did them, so we really could like delve into the issues, and got to work with some great professors whilst I was there. Ended up doing my dissertation, was at the time of the referendum in Scotland, so did my dissertation on the foreign and defence policy implications of Scottish independence, and was able to work with someone who had written on the subject as my dissertation supervisor, but also had great experiences there. Birmingham University sends a delegation to Harvard for Model UN, but also to Washington for a Model NATO conference, and I got selected to be part of the delegation that went to Washington to take part in this Model NATO conference, which was great, although we did get hit by a snowstorm, which meant that our visit to the State Department, because we were representing the US, we were supposed to go to the State Department, it got cancelled. And I was like, I mean, like, surely the State Department can handle some snow, but
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that just
so like that must have been Hillary Clinton in power as a State Department.
Yeah, 2000, and that would have been early 2014. Yeah, but I mean, I was speaking earlier about the people in Dundee. My class in Birmingham was so diverse. I was actually in the minority, being from the UK. There was like a handful of us that were from the UK, and the rest were from like Europe, Asia, Africa. It was amazing. The friend group I had was there was somebody like I think there was, no two people from the same country, and it was just like absolutely fascinating. And again, there are people that are friends until this day, people that I went on to live with when I lived in London, people that I've visited when I've travelled. So that was also a great experience, and had the added benefit of being close to my dad's family. So got to spend like a lot more time with them than I ever had. But not like a very different experience from undergrad. You suddenly feel very old. Yeah, like 17, even though you're not, right? And you're not that much older than them, but you have these 17 and 18-year-olds running around in their first year. Yeah, it's a very different experience.
So the postgrad is done, and then more or less you're looking for jobs by that time. No,
yeah.
not good.
Yeah, not fun. But I was really fortunate. I had, so through my Model UN involvement, I had been involved with a conference in The Hague in the Netherlands, and had the opportunity to visit there a couple of times, and really enjoyed being in The Hague. Really liked the city, and started looking for opportunities. It's obviously like it's an international hub as well, right? You've got the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice is there, the OSCE I think has a presence there, and it's obviously where all the embassies are based to the Netherlands. So I started looking for opportunities there, and I got an internship at the Hague Institute for Global Justice, working in their conflict prevention team, which at the time was like really focused on the role of education in conflict prevention, which was really interesting. And they had like also other teams working on justice and rule of law and that sort of thing. And I was one of 4 interns, and I did that for a couple of months. Obviously challenging being an internship. I think we talked about this previously, like the fact that like most internships are unpaid, or you get like a really small stipend. So I was really fortunate that my family were able to help me to be able to go and do that, and have that experience. And I literally I think I handed in my dissertation in Birmingham, and then I moved like 5 days later. And I just picked up my bags and went, which when Brexit happened was one of the things that I kind of was like really sad about, because I was like, well, that wouldn't be, in a post-Brexit world, that's not going to be possible anymore, that someone like me could literally just up and go and move to, a different country in Europe. But obviously was very, very lucky to do that. But then once that finished, I then, find myself in the situation that I think a lot of us do find ourselves in, where it's really, really difficult to find something permanent, to find something that pays. So I ended up like doing some sort of like program work, but basically for free. That was still in The Hague, but was basically with the Hague Institute, but also with the Stimson Centre, to bring together young people virtually to have discussions about like hot topics, climate change and conflict and that sort of stuff. And then came Independent Diplomat, who are a diplomatic advisory organisation with offices in New York and London, and at the time Brussels and Geneva. And I had applied to and interviewed for them previously and was unsuccessful. And then the head of the London office, a few months later, when he was recruiting for his next crop of interns, reached out to me. Funny story, I'd accidentally put my mum's mobile number on my CV and hadn't realised at the time. So I'm living in The Hague, and this office is calling my mum to try and track me down to offer me a job. So I was like, oh, he's going to think I'm so incompetent. And yeah, it worked out well in the end. Eventually he got a hold of me. And I moved to London to work as a sort of program assistant for Independent Diplomat. And their kind of main ethos is to give a platform to those that don't have a platform on the international stage. So at the time, we're doing a lot of work with the Tamils in Sri Lanka, Somaliland. They had previously worked with the opposition in South Sudan before South Sudan was South Sudan. But then when things went in a not so nice trajectory there, they kind of stepped back because the opposition were obviously responsible for some really terrible things there. And working, with like small island states on climate change. They also worked with Kosovo and trying to get them a voice at the UN and that sort of stuff. And that was really interesting. And I got to engage quite a bit with the Foreign Office when I was doing that job. But again,
Did you get paid for that job? This one?
I think I got a stipend, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think I got a stipend, but I wasn't being paid. It was still it was more or less an unpaid internship.
So you were staying in London.
Yeah. Which is not cheap. Again, really lucky to have the support of my family, and really like just scrimped and scraped my way, through it. It was only for a few months, and then I got the internship at the Foreign Office, which was a proper salary, which was like, the clouds parting and the sun coming through, after doing like a year of relatively low to unpaid work. And the Foreign Office offer a graduate, but I don't know if they still do it, but they did at the time, a graduate internship where you get paid the equivalent salary to like an admin officer type of thing.
So like, how long is that wait time? So from, like going to Hague, doing those internship, and then a bit of internship in London. So like, how many months we're talking about after your Birmingham University thing?
It was a year. So a year of like unpaid internship. And then the Foreign Office internship came along, which again, is a temporary thing, right? It was for I think 9 months. I think we did it for, but it was fantastic. And I had been torn at the time because the founder of Independent Diplomat used to be a British diplomat. His name's Karen Ross, and he had quit and testified against the government over the war in Iraq, and had written books about his experience, and also written about, I think his book about the kind of UN system is called Dispatches from an Unaccountable Elite, and basically had written about how, you have these situations sometimes at the UN where countries are being discussed, but they don't have a voice themselves to participate. And that really made me question, like, do I want to work for a government? Is this the right thing to do? So having done the sort of NGO think tank side of things and the sort of advisory stuff and had a glimpse into that world, I then got this opportunity to go and work in the Foreign Office, where I worked on Somalia, which was, absolutely fascinating. And I really like it was great. They really did give you a lot of, you're not fetching the coffee and doing the copying of documents and printing of stuff. Like I got given my own portfolio. So I was like working on human rights in Somalia, which obviously really, really interesting, and got the opportunity to kind of like grip that policy area. That like was just such an interesting experience, and I loved it. And I got to do got to work at like really cool things like Syria pledging conference that was held in London, and you had, you're walking around and there's all these like heads of state and like Malala Yousafzai's there, and you're just like walking past you and all this sort of stuff, and hold the door open for David Cameron and some head of state that he was meeting with, these like things where you're just kind of like, this is my real life. And kind of like walking into work every day and like walking into the Foreign Office building is, wow, it's a very, very impressive building. But I think just the people and the experience, like, I think a lot of people think of the Foreign Office as being stuffy and like old posh people. And it's not like that at all. It used to be, but it's really not like that at all anymore. It really is evolving to be more representative of like the UK as a country. So it was just, people were just like so nice to work with. And there was, you know, it really, there was like all sorts of people there, which was great. And that experience just kind of solidified for me, this is what I want to do. And I think one of the things that, like, you obviously, like, governments have more influence, right? Whereas like I had seen from these other organizations that I had interned with, that they were like doing great work and trying to affect change, but they're on the outside knocking on the door, trying to get in and trying to get someone to listen, and trying to get that face time and that contact. So I kind of like, I think the calculation I had in my head that even though it's not perfect and, you know, maybe you don't always agree with what's happening in a government, is better to be on the inside trying to, you know, affect change than it is being on the outside and knocking on the door. So yeah, so the Foreign Office internship was great, and like if it's still available, I'm not sure if it is now that the Foreign Office and DFID have merged. I think it might be on hold at the moment, but like I would definitely recommend it to people because it's a great experience.
So like, when did you start doing some of those, you know, like travel around? Like I think you went to Sudan.
Yeah. So
when that happened?
That was when I started my job as the desk officer in the Foreign Office for Sudan. Had a bit of a detour because so there's the fast stream, right, which everybody talks about. I wasn't successful with that. The sort of tests that they do to whittle down the numbers, the numerical tests, and that, like we talked about it earlier, right? My maths, not for me. So I wasn't successful in getting into civil service that way. So I basically looked at other government departments that were hiring. And obviously there's still, like to this day, the legacy of the 2008 recruitment freeze after the recession. So the government doesn't hire externally a huge amount. But they were hiring at the Department for Education. So after my Foreign Office internship, I went to the Department for Education as a full-time permanent civil servant, and was a private secretary to the National Schools Commissioner, which was a real step change. I'd gone from, you know, being in the Foreign Office and, you know, working on Somalia and like, okay, maybe not quite rubbing shoulders with the Prime Minister, but you know, I held the door open for him, you know. So
yeah.
But it was a step change, and I knew that is where I wanted to be in the Foreign Office. It was, you know, I loved it. So I then set my sight on, well, how do I get back? Like, how do I work my way back there? And after like 8 months, I think a job came up in the Sudan's unit in the Foreign Office, which was a joint unit at the time between the Foreign Office and DFID, as a Sudan desk officer. And I applied for that and I got it, but on loan from the Department for Education, which I still am until this day, but that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Does it mean that it's kind of internal, like recruitment?
Yeah, so most of the civil service recruitment is internal, like people just moving between departments, which I think is actually, it's a good thing about the civils. I mean, it's very difficult to get in, but it means that once you're in, like, you do have so much opportunity, and like most people that work in the civil service are generalists. So when I went to work on Sudan, I didn't really know much about it. Like, okay, we had talked about, you know, the peacekeeping mission when we were doing, you know, your class, and I knew a bit about the conflict in Darfur and when looking into things like responsibility to protect and all that sort of stuff, like I knew, but I didn't, know a huge amount about it. And then there was with like responsibility for UK policy on peacekeeping, the bilateral relationship. So at the time, we're restarting our sort of strategic dialogue with Sudan, and was at the forefront of organising the strategic dialogue meetings. And then also like engagement on like the peace process side of things. A lot of the armed groups have like representatives in the UK, and meeting with them, and doing some consular stuff as well. So that's when I got the opportunity to travel out to Sudan, and I'm fortunate to have been there. I think I've been about 5 or 6 times by now. And had the opportunity to travel to Darfur whilst I was there a few times, which was incredible. Really, really sort of eye-opening, and just to go in to see, the situation for yourself, but also to see a peacekeeping mission up close and like in real life, like having, sat in your class talking about them and reading books about them, to then being driven around in a convoy and going on, helicopters for one of them. It was sort of one of those like, is this real? Is this actually happening? Type moments. And I always remember Nori's stories about when he was in his teacher and all that sort of stuff. And now, I'm like being, driven around in a UN convoy and meeting with the head of mission and all that sort of stuff. It was, it was a kind of pinch me moment, but also hugely interesting, and really really eye-opening as well. That was the first time I had been to like an IDP camp or anything like that. So really like stark to see how people actually, like, circumstances people live in.
Did you like, were you thinking that, no, this is me, this is the thing I really want to do, because this can do stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm absolutely like I always say to people, I'm a UN geek through and through. Like, I find the UN as an institution like fascinating, and I find peacekeeping really fascinating as well. And I think just that experience of having those, kind of stepping back from the UN side and more being, a British diplomat side of things, like having conversations with counterparts from other countries and explaining our point of view, listening to their point of view, trying to kind of meet in the middle on things, I think is just so interesting. And like it's challenging, it's stretching, and it's like there's very few days where, whether I'm in Darfur or I'm in New York or in London, where I find myself bored in my job, because the world doesn't stop, right? And like there's always something. And there's always, as the UK, we're very active in the global arena. So there's always something for us to be, engaging on and having discussions on. And I do still have that idealism about the UN. I think in some capacities, like, it is far from perfect. It has a lot of problems in the way that it operates. But I do fundamentally believe in that. I can't remember which Secretary General it was that said it, but one of the former Secretary Generals said if we didn't have the UN, we would have to create it. And I think that's definitely true. So, but even like, I think just representing, the British people overseas is a really great job to do, and something that I take like a lot of pride in as well, and the values that we hold as well, as the UK. You're working for a country that cares about human rights and cares about protecting people that don't have a voice, and trying to make things better. I think and again, don't always get it right, but on most things, at least the issues I've had the chance to work on, we're on the right side of history, and it's been really interesting to be, kind of at the center of the issues that I've worked on.
Did you go back to Sudan and places like Darfur?
So yeah, I think it's been about 5 or 6 times. So last time I was in Sudan and also went to Darfur whilst I was there was September 2019. So obviously with the pandemic, it's not been possible. And obviously going in September of 2019 was fascinating because the transition had just taken place in Sudan, and it was, you know, they're on this precipice of a new Sudan, basically. And I really want to go back again, because so much has happened, not just on the political front, but also on the UN side. So we've transitioned from a peacekeeping mission to a special political mission, which again was another sort of pinch me moment, like having done Model UN and talked about UN missions. I was, you know, my job was to create the mandate for this new mission, and to do that and to write the resolution, to come up with the name for it, which people think that there's some part of the UN that comes up with the names for these missions, but it's left to people like me to sit with a pen and a piece of paper to come up with what sounds okay as an acronym and hasn't been used before. So that was just like, that to me is still surreal. To have been able to play such a big role in the creation of a UN mission. It's pretty cool for a UN geek like me.
Well done. So, like, I mean, it might be a kind of like tricky question, but if you don't want to answer, it's fine. I mean, if it's linked with your policy stuff. So, like, I mean, like going to like places like Darfur, how do you to go there? How much risk is involved?
Yeah. So it's what was at the time facilitated by the UN. So I mean, like Khartoum is really like one of the safest cities in Africa. Obviously Darfur slightly different. But yeah, all our protection provided by the UN. We would go around in UN helicopters, which I thought was really cool. My parents less so. When I sent them a picture of me standing in front of an old Russian helicopter, not so keen. But you know, with sort of military escort from the blue helmets. So, but it's amazing how quickly you feel very comfortable. I always like, whenever my mum freaks out about me going to these places, I'm like, how often do you hear in the news about something terrible happening to, you know, a diplomat? Like, yes, it happens, but it's not like an everyday occurrence, right? We're kept safe. Like, nobody, especially like, you know, coming from New York to visit a peacekeeping mission, nobody wants a permanent member of the Security Council to end up, you know, so we're kept very. I was supposed to go to Somalia, but my mum got sick at the time and I wasn't able to go. And now she's well, we joke about it and we say that, you know, I'm like, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Like, you like sabotaged the trip because you didn't want me to go. But you know, we get training and stuff on how to be in these environments, and how to respond to different situations. So and like in Khartoum, it's like I was really struck that, you know, how safe you do feel, and like you don't get bothered at all. You know, you would like someone like me, like I stick out, right, in a place like Khartoum, but people are so friendly. Sudanese hospitality is amazing. And even in, you know, Darfur, you're going, remember going to visit a water project, and this man, we went to see I think he kind of like a water pump that they had installed in his house, and it took us to see it because the UK government had paid and contributed towards the project. And this man's trying to give us bottles of water, when he has, you know, like he has a pump in his house and that's how he gets his water, and he's trying to be, you know, a host and give us. And I've seen that so many different times where people that really don't have a lot, slash nothing at all, are just, you know, so welcoming, and want to make you feel welcome, and to you know, really share what they do have with you. So yeah, really, really incredible to see.
Can I give you a side tip? I mean, one of the tip is, do you take notes about these moments, these memories?
So yes and no.
Keep a diary, because I mean, you can write a
Yeah,
book. You can write a
yeah.
book.
You
You
know,
can write a book.
my mum always says that to me. I should keep a diary about the things that I've done, and yeah. I mean, I've got like a stack of notebooks by now that have, like, you know, the sort of work related stuff in it. But yeah, I really should write down these things.
I mean, it's not like only like it's a good thing because you're writing those special moments.
Yeah,
So it's almost like, you know, writing a story for the humanity, but also,
yeah,
you know, the tangible gain can be, you know, this can be New York Times bestseller.
yeah. Maybe one day, and I'll say I got the idea here.
Yeah, so you know,
They
that's
even
it.
want royalties.
Then you can do like more amazing thing, you know, more amazing work for the people.
Well, hopefully. I mean, yeah, like I'm very much still at the start of my career, right? So who knows what will come in the future.
Because, like, you know, people like you actually can become UN Secretary General.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, we do need to have a female Secretary General at some point.
Yeah, so you know.
Still has, yeah. But I mean, I've been incredibly fortunate here in New York to work with two incredible female ambassadors. The first female British ambassador to the UN, and now we have our second. And that is like, that to me that's like the sort of glimpse into the future, right? Like that's definitely the goal, to be ambassador somewhere one day. And there's lots of, you know, amazing British diplomats around the world who, you know, who aren't that much older than me, that are ambassadors. I think it'll take a good while before I'm reaching the lofty heights of being permanent representative to the Security Council.
You are still very young, Natalie.
Yes, I just turned 30, Abdullah. So, but I've got, yeah, plenty of time.
Plenty of time, plenty of time. But I mean, like, one thing I will tell, I mean, this is my academic freedom. It has nothing to do with you. Like, two of the people who worked for the UN, I totally hate them, despise them so much. And two of these people are John Bolton and Nikki Haley. And so these are the two people. They've got nothing to do with UN. These are the people who actually, you know, they are the antithesis of UN. And you know, they're being posted in the UN to do things. I mean, that's just really bad faith, you know, really bad faith. It's really, you know, so hurtful, so hurtful.
Yeah.
You don't have to make any comments on this, but I mean.
No, I think the only thing I would say though, and I think this is like the UN gets a hard time. I think, you know, it really gets criticized, but at the end of the day, I think people forget that the UN is only as good as its member states.
Yep.
And obviously those two examples that you provided, they were sent here by, you know, a government to represent that particular government. But yeah, I think so. Like, I think yes, there are a lot of things that need to change about the UN, and a lot of things that, you know, and that we as the UK are working on, trying to push for reforms in various different areas. But it can only be good as the member states that make up the body at the end of the day.
Like, I mean, one of my heroes in the UN is Doug Hammarskjöld. I think if you go to UN building, you can see some of his.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell us some of the things you saw?
Yeah. So actually, the building that I work in, so not we're as a mission to the UN, we're not in. I think a lot of people think, you know, the famous big rectangular building that everybody's in there. We're not. So we're like a block over. But my building is one Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza. So there's an entire square dedicated to Dag Hammarskjöld. There's some monuments as well, and there is, when you go into sort of main entrance of the UN building, they have these amazing tapestries that are pictures of every Secretary General that there has been. So obviously there's a tapestry of Dag Hammarskjöld, but there's also quotes of his around the building. There's one in particular that
I think there is a like meditation room as well, isn't it? He created.
There's a reflection room, yeah. Which kind of serves like a non-denominational church, so to speak, you know, like just a place for, because obviously over the years so many people have died serving under the blue flag, yeah, it sort of serves as a place of reflection. There's some really striking, you know, in the kind of main lobby that visitors can go into. There's flags from Baghdad and also from Haiti. So, you know, the bombing of the UN offices in Baghdad.
Yeah.
I know you've seen the
2000
documentaries. It's Sergio
Denelo.
That's the one. So the UN flag that was up at the time of that bombing, which is obviously like ripped and stuff, is up in a frame. And then there's also a flag from Haiti when the earthquake happened. So those are sort of really striking reminders of the kind of danger that people put themselves in. But yeah, there's a Dag Hammarskjöld quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's about how the UN,
paraphrase it.
Yeah, it's like the UN wasn't designed to take the world to, like, it was like something about, like, it was basically designed to save humanity from hell, which I think is really striking, because when you look back to the creation of the UN, it was, you know, post World War II. And if you look at it from that perspective, it has been a success, right? Because we haven't had, touch wood, a World War III. The nature of conflict has obviously changed, right? And conflict has become much more fragmented, and yeah, just completely changed in the 75 years, nearly 76 years of the UN. But yeah, it's amazing to walk those halls. You know, I still get moments where I sit in the security chamber and I'm like, wow. And I've obviously had my picture taking standing, you know, at the lectern that you see them all up from, and yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to bring people Can
I make a deal with you right now that if I would come to New York,
100%,
you would give me a, you know, guided tour?
Yeah, definitely. I probably can't tell you as many facts as the guides, but 100%. If you make your boast that I'm still in job, you got a guided tour.
Thank you.
And I didn't take you to the gift shop, Abdullah.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. I'll pay whatever you want from me.
So you know you can buy blue helmets in the gift shop.
Can you? No.
Yeah, you can. I think.
Oh my God.
You should. I think I should send you one, and you can wear it when you teach your peacekeeping class.
I mean, I saw like Nori was wearing that blue helmet when he was in East Timor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much protection the one from the UN gift shop would give you, you know, but it would be protection enough for teaching class. There we go, sorted.
Amazing story. I mean, I think, you know, I think it's a dream job. It's a dream job.
Yeah. It really is. And as I say, like, having gone from, you know, studying the UN and like doing model UN and pretending to write resolutions to actually writing resolutions and having them agreed by the Security Council is crazy. It really is. It's still like, every time I have a resolution adopted, I still have a moment where I'm like freaking out, that the little model UN delegate inside of me, like, oh my God, you know. I like absolutely love it.
So you were actually sitting in the actual room of the Security Council.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't sit at the horseshoe table because that's where the ambassadors sit, but you know, you have like the seats like immediately behind. That's where I sit. And we're finally getting back to in person. Like over the past year and a half, I've sat here, and they've done the Security Council virtually, which, as you can imagine, has had some funny moments with some technical challenges. But yeah, for the most part, I've been sitting at my dining room table, you know, doing these meetings. So now that we're getting back into the chamber, is really nice. Getting back to meeting with colleagues in person, because so much of diplomacy is like one of my ambassadors would always say that it's a contact sport. So, you know, we have been curtailed, you know, not being able to grab your French colleague on the sidelines of a meeting to say, oh, what about this? And it's definitely made it more difficult over the past like year and a half. So now we're getting back to being able to meet in person. Is really great.
Great. But also it's like huge building, is huge things, isn't it? Lots of things happening, lots of desks, lots of, you know, politics going on. I mean, is there any like collective cafe there where, you know, people just go there during the lunchtime?
Yeah.
All work from them.
There's a few, although I don't think you'd really want to eat there. The food's not great. So we have the delegates lounge, which is a really long room that people in normal circumstances, like pre-pandemic, would go. That's where you had most of your meetings with like counterparts, people from the secretariat, and then there's the Vienna Cafe, which is obviously a nod to the UN's presence in Austria, which is like in the basement, where people come out of rooms that don't have any windows in them to get some caffeine and to keep themselves going through the back. But so much of UN business is not done actually in that building. It's done around about you know, in the sort of 5-6 block radius of the UN building. You know, I meet with most of my counterparts in respective people's missions. We'll go for a coffee at the coffee shop that's across the road. You know, like I remember I did a chat. A friend of mine that's still involved with doing Model UN asked me to speak to a group of students that were about to go to a conference, and they were so surprised that most of our conversations take place on WhatsApp. Like that, I would like I mean, I will, when we really get into it and we're negotiating, like if I have to try and like do a quick compromise with someone, I'll send it to them via WhatsApp. So I think people think that there's this like really formal process, and like pre-pandemic, the 15 members of the Security Council, we would just get in a conference room and hash it out. And over the last year and a half, we have met over Zoom and over Teams, and you know, that's how we've operated. So there's not a super top secret, like, you know, system that they might make you think that there are in movies. A lot of it is done in very basic ways. So yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend eating in the UN.
So I mean, through your job, I mean, you must have seen all those famous people. I
have crossed paths with a few, yeah.
Tell us the most famous one you saw, like, you know, just passed by, you know.
I mean, I have had lunch in the same room as Antonio Guterres, so that was quite cool. Yeah, the presidency of the Security Council rotates every month. And when the UK had the presidency in November 2019, I was our presidency coordinator, which meant basically, along with my boss, responsible for organising the whole thing and making sure the show ran smoothly for the month. And as every month, the Secretary General has a lunch with the Security Council members. And during our presidency, I was able to go to that lunch. Now, I was sat at a kid's table in the corner taking a note, but I was still in the same room as them. So that counts. I've been in the same room as them a couple of times, actually, in meetings that, you know, when ministers come over and that sort of thing. I'm trying to think who else. There was, and I missed this, and I was very, very disappointed about it. Since my childhood, I've been a big David Beckham fan. And he's like a goodwill ambassador for
Yeah,
UNICEF.
he was, yeah.
And we got word that he was in the UN, and I literally was like, tell me where and I will sprint there now. Yeah. I've also, let me think, I mean, celebrities that,
like lots of Hollywood actors as well, like, you know, things like George Clooney or like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, these people always.
Amal Clooney, I've been in the same space as her. This is why I should keep a diary, because I know there's others that,
yeah. I mean, you can actually be a friend with like Amal Clooney. I mean,
I could be, yeah,
best
like
mate, you know, best friend.
Yeah, I could go to Lake Como and hang out at their house.
Yeah, it will be amazing, you know.
But yeah, I think you know, the best opportunity for that sort of thing is High Level Week. So, you know, in September there's like a week where all of the heads of state and heads of government descend on New York.
Yeah.
That's the best opportunity. I've only had one of those that was semi-normal, which was in 2019. Obviously last year it was entirely virtual, which was a weird experience. And this year we're hoping that it will be like kind of hybrid. So we will have some like in-person meetings. So hopefully next month, the end of next month, I'll get to meet Biden and Kamala. And, but yeah, no, I mean, you do get to even like, I mean, meeting being in meetings with foreign ministers and sitting in on those things and sitting in on meetings with prime ministers and all that sort of stuff, like, to your average person, that's not that cool, but to people like us, I think that is quite cool. So yeah. But
also, I mean, this can, you know, create other opportunity as well, you know, just build up any kind of networking, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
And then the people, you know, pick up people, you know, oh, that person is very sharp. I mean, you know, who's she?
I mean, it's all about networking, which is like another thing that obviously it's not been happening, right? In the pandemic, like usually there's like loads of receptions and I mean, we're not eating Ferrero Rocher and caviar every night like some people think, but you know, there usually are, you know, we're in a setting here where you have 193 member states, and the vast majority of those have a national day of some sort. So there's always receptions, there's always, you know, things going on, and but we just, like, nobody wants to go to a virtual reception, right? So that's not really been happening in the past year, so we're looking forward to getting back to doing that sort of stuff as well. We had a really, really cool one, so when I was talking about our presidency in November 2019, where the HMS Dragon, which is like one of our aircraft carriers, happened to be like doing a tour, and she was in New York at the time of our presidency. So we had a reception on board this huge warship, this British warship, which was pretty cool. So that was definitely one of those memorable experiences that, yeah, you kind of have to pinch yourself and like, is this on a British warship in New York, like with all these diplomats, like very, very random.
Do you guys get invited to like places like White House?
So our ambassadors do, especially when the US has the presidency of the Security Council. Normally they would visit the White House in person, but this year, obviously because of COVID, it was virtual, and I sat in on that meeting, so I've heard Biden's voice in a small setting. I didn't get to meet him, and I couldn't see the camera from where I was sitting. So, but no, I mean, like,
just talk to the cameraman maybe, you know, beforehand.
Yeah, definitely. the ambassadors get to do like amazing things, like really cool things. And like for them, like I think you because obviously, you know, people have like 30 odd year careers in the Foreign Office, working up from like where I am to being ambassador. So I think by the time you get to being ambassador, I don't know, like I should ask my ambassador actually, like whether she still has those pinch me moments, or whether like now it's just kind of like, this is just life. This is just the day to day, you know, another day at the office, so to speak. I don't know. I don't know.
So like, in terms of your career trajectory, I mean, so what's next for you?
Who knows? Who knows?
How this will work? Like, what's the highest you can get through the Foreign?
I mean, ambassador is the highest, or permanent undersecretary, who that's like the head of the Foreign Office, like the most senior civil servant within the office. I'm terrible. I should be calling it the Foreign and Commonwealth and Development Office, which it is now with the merger. Old habits die hard. And like obviously there's different scale of ambassador, right? You know, being an ambassador to Gabon is not the same as being ambassador to Paris, for example. So usually how it works is like you will start out, you know, so like you go up. So I'm a second secretary. The next stage up is first secretary, and then you know you're moving up to sort of head of department level after that. Director level is kind of equivalent to ambassador, but like those that go down the sort of ambassadorial path, they'll start off in the small postings. So we've got like lots of great like young ambassadors who are in their 40s, heading up missions in Africa, for example, who for me, like that's kind of like, they're like my role models right now. Like that's what I want to be doing. And then you obviously work your way up to the level that my ambassador currently, Dame Barbara Woodward, is, you know, of being one of the most senior diplomats in the office. You know, the jobs in Washington, New York, Paris, Beijing, Berlin, Moscow, where else? I mean, those are the main, like those are the top. That's the top. And then obviously the permanent undersecretary job, that's like as high as you go in the system. And it takes a long time to get that high. So
like this selection process is pretty fair.
Yeah. So I mean, for any job within so we're very different to some foreign services.
Like for example, like USA is like very political. At
the senior levels, yes. At lower levels, I think they work in a similar system to we do. But I've spoken to diplomats from other systems, some European governments, where you basically, it's about that networking we were talking about, and someone just kind of picks you and I want you to come and do this job, or you get told you're going to do this job.
Yeah.
It's not like that for us at all. There's every job is recruited through a recruitment process. You don't just get a job, you have to apply for it. So you have the comfort in that you're a permanent civil servant, right? They're always going to find a job for you, but you still have to go through an interview process. Jobs get advertised. It's kind of changed a bit recently, but like every sort of 4 months or something, like a huge amount, like bunch of jobs will be put on a board, and you apply for those jobs. You go through interviews. People are successful, people aren't successful, and have to go through and wait for the next board and apply for more jobs. And it's the same at the top levels. Like very, very rarely do we do political appointments for ambassadorial roles. It's usually like an open competition. Sometimes with the ambassadorial roles, they do open it up externally, and you do have some people coming in from the private sector to take on ambassadorial roles, but it's very different from the US, which is good as well, because it means there's continuity. Like when a government changes, you don't have to change all the top ambassadors. They stay the same, which is good. I think it's a much better system. But yeah, in terms of what's next for me, I really don't know. Like it's so cheesy, but like the world is my oyster, like
and like people like you, I mean, you are happy to go anywhere. You can work in Sudan, you can work in.
I mean, I don't think I could do. I have friends who have done Somalia, they've done Iraq, Afghanistan. Like, I think that is not for me. Because you literally live, you know, in a compound and you can't really leave, and unless you're under heavy security and that sort of thing. And I know, speaking to some friends that have been there, like, it is high, very, very, very intense. And yeah, so I think somewhere like Sudan, somewhere like, you know, I also work on DRC, so somewhere like Kinshasa or somewhere like that. I think, like, I definitely want to do a posting in Africa. Where specifically in Africa, you know, I'm very open. Like, Asia is also fascinating. So yeah, I think I would go most places within reason. But like kind of hardship posting, where you are literally like living in a shipping container. I mean, where would my cats go for one? You know, like
yeah. Like, I mean, how this will work then? So, like, if you are told one day that, oh, you know, from next month your assignment is in, for example, in like Afghanistan.
It doesn't work like that though. Like, it's been a long time since the Foreign Office has operated in that way, where you were given an envelope and you were told this is where you're going. So you always have a degree of choice. So like, they will advertise the jobs that are available at that moment in time, and you apply for the jobs that you want to apply for. Like, I can't foresee a situation where you're told you're going somewhere like Afghanistan or like Iraq without having chosen to apply for a job there. Which I think is also a misconception, that people think that like, you're in the Foreign Office, you're just told where to go every 4 years. You don't have any choice in the matter. You have so much choice in how you want to develop your own career, and like the areas that you want to develop your career in. So I've kind of decided that like Africa is the kind of geographic region that I'm most interested in, so that I'll try and like form my career and be kind of like an Africanist, so to speak, and become an expert in you know, different African contexts. So we are given choice. So I have at least another year left in New York. I might stay a bit longer, and then at that time I'll just like kind of look and see what's available. Maybe that'll be another posting. Maybe that'll be a job back in London. Who knows?
But if you want to stay a bit longer, will they allow that option?
I can stay, you know, I think we need to wait and see. I could maybe stay like an extra year, but anything beyond that, you know, like, people always like, because I mean, New York is great, and people are like, oh, but you're never going to leave New York, right? You're going to be there forever. And I'm like, well, no, that's not what a diplomatic career is like. You don't sign up to stay in one place forever. I mean, the only place you could do that is London, right? You could be like in a home civil service. But if, like, say hypothetically I decided I didn't want to leave New York, then I would have to find a different job that was not in the Foreign Office. And like, UN would be an option, but I don't know if I want to work for the UN. Like, working with it is great, but I don't know if I want to work in the belly of the beast, so to speak. So we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that can come up a bit later, you know, when, like, you know, Deputy Secretary General kind of situation.
Yeah.
Then apply for stuff.
I'm going to do it though. I'm going to do it properly, right? I'm going to be FD, but yeah, I really, really hope by the time that I get to that point in my career that they will have had a female Secretary General by then. So, but yeah, Guterres has got another term, so I've got at least 5 years until, you know, I can give it a go. But yeah, who knows? There's just, I think there's so many exciting opportunities, so many places in this world that are so interesting, that it's really difficult to pin down and say, like, this is definitely where I want to go next.
I mean, like, I think before you leave New York, can you just give me a bit of notice, so that, you know, I can leave before.
So you can come and get your blue helmet from the gift shop.
So don't leave before. You know.
I'll put out a notice. For visitors.
Like, 2 things I want to see is obviously the UN, and then this guided tour. And the second thing is, like, I want to go to like Columbia University and to.
Oh yeah, have I been there? I don't think I've ever been, actually.
To like one of my favorite, you know, academic who died a couple of years ago, the Palestinian Christian academic Edward Said.
Oh yeah.
So he's got like, still his office is there. So
yeah. It's meant to be a beautiful campus.
Hopefully, I mean, I had the opportunity like a couple of years ago for a conference. Then I just, because during the term, of the Trump, I didn't want to go to America, so.
Yeah. Well, things are on the up, I would say. Things are moving in a better direction. But yeah.
So like, we covered lots of technical stuff. I like more like easy stuff, like next 10 minutes, and then we'll finish for today. But I would really love to come back to you because I mean, it's such a you're such a resourceful person now. You've got so many stories to tell. So I need to do a bit of research, and then I can ask you that, okay, can you do a very specific talk on this subject area? That will be amazing.
Oh, I'm happy.
That kind of groundwork for so this is like kind of overall kind of idea about what you do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I mean, peacekeeping is definitely
that's my
forte.
Yeah. That would be good. Like a couple of things, like so obviously this is your work, this is your like livelihood. We always struggle with our workload. I mean, in terms of workload, I mean, how much is it? Is it like too intense, too much? You don't have to answer as truthfully as you want. It's up to you.
I mean, it is like, I think so this posting is known within the Foreign Office for being a very intense posting, like in a very different way to obviously Iraq or Afghanistan, but in terms of workload, it's an extremely busy post, and like as I said earlier, like the world doesn't stop, right? So and the UN is a huge organization. I obviously focus predominantly on the Security Council, but there's General Assembly, there's there's so many different parts of the UN system. I would say in terms of workload, it's very, it goes through cycles. So at the moment, I'm in a slightly quieter cycle. September will be crazy because we have high level week when all of the heads of states and heads of government meet. And then like for me, because I work on peacekeeping, my work is really dictated by mandate renewals. So like every year, every 6 months, depending on which mission it is, the council will reauthorize, a particular mission. So for me, like November, December will be really busy because that's the run up to the renewal of the mandate of the peacekeeping mission in DRC, MONUSCO. And then I also work on sanctions. So February will be busy because that's when the Sudan panel, like the experts that work on Sudan on sanctions, we renew their mandate every year. So that's when that get renewed. And then like April, May will be very busy because that's the run up to the renewal of the political mission in Sudan. So I would say like it is mostly a very busy job. So that's why we have to take advantage of these quieter times that we do have. But it's an intense, but I thrive on that. I'm terrible when I don't have like, what I mean, when you've got like a bit of a to-do list, but none of it's urgent, and like it's like nice to do. I should read that article or I should do the. I'm not good in those settings. I'm better when it's like, right, you have a to-do list as long as your arm. They're all urgent. They all need to be done now. Like just get in, like fire through it. I work much better sort of under pressure and in those situations. So it suits me to be busy and to have like a lot of work to do.
I mean, I'm just like one thing, like technical question. Are you guys allowed to write stuff like things like op-ed for New York Times or like
I mean, you have to get special permission to do that sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, we have like internal op-eds that people do and stuff like that for to share throughout our network. But it's rare to see us like write for external outlets. It does happen, but it's not something that we do very often.
Okay.
And there's so many, like, I mean, I think as well, like there's so many people that like that devote their career to more sort of like academic space, right, that I often think are better placed for these sorts of op-eds and that sort of stuff. So when we have this I'm sure you've the International Peace Institute that's based in New York does a lot of work on peacekeeping. Like they write whole studies and stuff like that about peacekeeping missions, and you know, that's what they've devoted their career to. So I often think that we leave that to them, you know.
Good. So a couple of like other things for our students, like what will be your advice to them who wants to be like, you know, diplomat, wants to work for UN or NATO or like, you know, all these NGOs or like big NGOs?
Yeah. Perseverance, because, you know, it's really not an easy field to break into. And as we talked about earlier, you know, unpaid internships, unfortunately, are the norm. And I think that there is a move away from that, and there is a recognition that you can't expect people to work full-time jobs for no pay, you know, with the sort of the view that you're doing them a favor. Like, yes, you're giving them experience, but at the same time, people deserve to be paid a living wage. But I think, yeah, perseverance, and like, you know, I think one thing that I've learned is that there's not necessarily one path. So I think we talked about we exchanged about this previously, that when I was, you know, doing my studies, the fast stream, that was like the thing that was portrayed, like that's how you get into the civil service. And that's not how I did it. And I've done it in a much more kind of zigzaggy way. So I think like definitely like explore, like if that works for you and you make it through that, like congratulations, because you've beat out thousands of other people to do so, and that's great. But if that doesn't work out, like keep trying and look for other opportunities and other ways to get through, and maybe you have to do a job that is not your passion like for a while, but if it then gets you a step closer to what is your passion, then to definitely do it. And the other thing, and I mentioned this earlier, like get involved with things that are kind of geared, if there are those opportunities on campus, right? Get involved with Model UN, get involved with those sorts of things, those you know, various societies that there are that have that kind of that focus to them. I think there used to be like an Oxfam society, and you know, all those sorts of things. Get involved with the humanities department and the opportunities that are offered there, because that really does make a difference. It shows, you know, if you're going for an internship or a job, and you and the other person both have a distinction and you can both speak a couple of languages, but you've done a few of these extra things, you know, these extracurricular things that they haven't done, well, then that sets you apart from them. And you can draw on those experiences that you have, even though it's not like a professional experience. It still gives you a skill set. So definitely would advise people to get involved with those sorts of things as early as they can.
Thank you, Natalie.
And take your classes, obviously.
Yeah, take everyone's class. No, we're all. But university is very important. You know, come to university, get a degree, and then, you know, so that's it. You know, education. Yeah, exactly. And you know, do spend some time in the library, because it does help. Yeah. But I mean, thank you, Natalie. This is an absolute pleasure. No,
thank you. It's been so great to chat with you.
I think this will be quite instructive kind of podcast as well for lots of students who don't know, you know, much of the intricacies of this kind of, you know, this kind of job, what it entails. I mean, so you've got kind of, you know, really work around like how it works. So
yeah, and I think it's like, I always think if I can show people that people like, I'm not different from them, right? Like I grew up in a very kind of standard upbringing. Like I wasn't like a diplomat's child. I didn't go to a fancy school, and I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge, but yeah, you know, I still have, you know, ended up wherever I ended up. I think it's great to show people that it, like, you're not average person, but you know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
to, you don't have to have been, to the fanciest of everything to be able to tap into this sort of career. So yeah, very, very happy to do it. So thank you for reaching out to me. And yeah, it's been great to
thank you.
see you.
No, it's been always, because I was, I mean, I've been in touch with you for a long time. So,
Yeah.
So I think, we'll carry this on, for the rest of our life. I mean, I want to see, like, that's my, kind of lifetime achievement, that I want to see you as the Secretary General, the first female Secretary General of the UN. So
Well,
if,
I do
if
hope
anyone watches this podcast, they should,
yeah.
know this.
And when I write my book, you can say I gave her the idea.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you.